Welcome back, Pod People. My guest today is Philip J. Cook, the writer, director, visual effects artist, and a lot of other roles behind a whole bunch of high concept science fiction and horror fantasy films such as Despiser, Ghost Planet, several more that I haven't seen yet, like Invader, Outer World, and the Malice trilogy. And on Kickstarter right now, at least when we're recording this, is Echoes of Dread, which is a sequel to Despiser. Despiser is a 2003 film, so you've been making movies for quite some time now.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the thing that jumps out to most people about your films is how they are visual effects extravaganzas that really, I'm sure, look like they're basically put together just by you. Is that more or less correct?
It depends on which project you're talking about. Ironically, the very first one we did, Outer World, which ended up on the Sci-Fi Channel, was probably the biggest. And over the years, they get consistently smaller crew, smaller amounts of money, less people involved. But that one, my very first film, which was shot in 1985, we made this epic science fiction film. And this is all pre-digital, right? So everything visual effects wise back then had to be done with physical props, miniatures, glass matte painting, stop motion animation. And we made this film. God, what did we spend? I think we spent 100. Ultimately, it was private investors, dentists, lawyers. We did that whole thing, and I think we spent $135,000 on it. $1985, which is probably $500,000 now or more. I'm not sure. And everybody said when we got it done, "You'll never get this film distributed." We got it distributed. We got it on the Sci-Fi Channel. It ran forever on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it's like on Blu-ray and DVD, and it's on Amazon and Tubi. So, every time I make one of these films, the world is different in the media space. Back in the 80s, you could have had a snowball's chance of getting a movie, an indie, in the movie theater. This is the days of Blood Simple and She's Gotta Have It, and early Steven Soderbergh films, where you could have gotten an indie, even 16 millimeter, right, and got it blown up and got it on a theater screen. But those days were gone by the time we made our second film, Invader, in 1989, and same thing, old school visual effects, stop motion puppets, miniatures, just lots of just hard handmade work. When I don't know where you want me to go with this, I could tell you some funky stories about these early films, which would curl your toes. But I guess the long and the short is, every time I make one of these films, that's spanning what is it? That's 25, 30, 40 years. Every time you do it, it's a different world. Technically, the technology is different. The marketplaces are different. Things that worked before don't exist anymore. You used to be able to get on HBO, Showtime, and Cinemax. We got that for our second film. Can't get that now. It's impossible. The third film, Despiser, submitted to the Sci-Fi Channel, and they liked it, but they didn't feel it was sophisticated enough, and no boobs and whatever their criteria was for the things that they had. But I had a great conversation with a guy who was over at the Sci-Fi Channel who remembered my earlier films, which is cool. But then but that was the glory days of the video store. So there were 15,000 video, was it 15,000, 30,000 Blockbuster stores and 15,000 Hollywood video stores. So what is that? That's 50,000 opportunities to sell somebody physical media. That's a marketplace.
Yeah.
But video stores don't exist anymore. Netflix drove a stake through its heart, like the way to streaming. So now we got streaming. And there are dozens and dozens of streaming channels out there, which are probably, a lot of them are going to consolidate going forward. And then YouTube, which was a curiosity about 10 years ago, now is a very viable distribution platform for movies. Matter of fact, probably more people are watching movies now on YouTube than almost on any other platform. So there you go. It's a constant evolution of technology. It's a constant evolution of the marketplace. What works, what doesn't work. Having said that, though, it seems like there's less and less money you can make in this indie environment. And you've probably, you've made an independent film. You probably kept your eye on this space over the years. When's the last time you really saw an indie film break out? Right? I mean, like break out, like really, like Blair Witch was a phenomenon, right? It,
Uh,
it, it, it was a
yeah,
meteor strike. And the only one that comes to mind right now in recent memory, and there may be others that I'd love to know about them, is Terrifier, right?
that is the one I was gonna say. Yeah,
Terrifier is the only one that I know that guy kind of broke out in an old school vibe. I think he did in India. I don't really know that much about it. It's not my genre, but he was a prosthetic makeup dude, and he does these amazing prosthetic kills. I don't know if I
yeah,
saw
yeah. I've seen them.
Terrifier one, and it's like wow, oh wow, that's it's not my genre, but I got to appreciate the artistry. And he broke out, but I
Yeah.
can't think of any other ones that have really, said, "Oh wow, there's the model. There's hope. There's that's going to lead us to the desert, to the promised land of prosperity."
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's any that have become like pop culture touchstones the way that Terrifier has,
Yeah.
that occur to me, but there definitely are ones that have, entered the conversation a bit and been at least a moderate amount of mainstream success. Like Skinamarink comes to mind.
Oh, I don't know.
And that's a really cool one. It's an experimental film that's meant to evoke the feeling of like being a kid who's awake too late at night after everyone else has gone to sleep and spooky things are happening.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's very much a divisive, like, love it or hate it film. Like, I love what it's going for, but I found myself bored while watching it. But I'm
Uh,
really glad it got made, and I'm glad that the people who do like it have found it. But there are other ones that I think are doing well financially, like um Talk to Me and Take Her Back are both made by the same this a duo who got their start on YouTube. Um, and then they started making feature films. They think in the last 3 years they've made two films and they've both done moderately well. They're from Australia.
oh,
Uh, and so those are definitely worth watching, especially Bring Her Back. I liked that one a lot and just came out this past summer.
cool.
And I think Good Boy is getting a fair bit of buzz. That's the one that's a haunted house movie told from the perspective of the family dog.
Oh, I just heard about that. How
Yeah.
how indie is that? Like, is that really a low budget? Come out of
Um,
this.
yeah, so one of my favorite things about that movie is that when I went and saw it at my local drive-in, they had a theater exclusive like 10-minute making of documentary after the credits finished. And so yeah, the cast and crew are like a husband and wife and their dog,
Oh,
and
wow.
like that's basically it. And they shot it in like 1 hour shoot days over the course of several years because that's about as long as you can hope to get a dog to cooperate.
Right,
Uh,
right. It's like working with a child. I've learned you got honestly, you get maybe the first 15 minutes, they're into it. And if you didn't get what you want in that first 15 minutes, God help you because you're going to be struggling for the next 2 hours where everybody starts to panic and freak out and cry
yeah,
and melt down. That's interesting.
yeah, yeah. The before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about the indie film that I made and the Philip experiment, and the actor who plays Philip in that is a relatively young teenager, but his dad is an actor and filmmaker, so he's been on sets for a long time and is very patient and used to that kind of thing. I've not had to work with any like little kids yet, and the only animals were the ones that just sort of wandered through the set.
Yeah, yeah. And it is true. I mean, I'm always amazed when you do see one of these child actors who are so good. It's like, holy, you're just a freak, aren't you? I mean, there's it's just their ability to concentrate, know their lines, and deliver the things. It's like, wow, that's amazing. Well, cool.
Yeah. So, uh, Tell me about how you developed your sort of distinctive visual style on these, because, like, when I was watching Ghost Planet, I've watched Despiser first, and then I watched Ghost Planet, and I have more of your films on my to-be list to watch later, but I haven't gotten to them yet.
Okay.
But they're it's really clear to me when I'm watching one of those, like, this looks like a Philip Cook movie. So I'm curious, talk a bit about, like, how you came up with your visual style, what has gone into those creative decisions to make such CGI heavy films.
Well, it's interesting. Well, the early ones certainly weren't so CGI heavy, but they have over the years. I mean, I guess most low budget filmmakers uh, are constrained by budget, and often there's a location and two actors, and they're talking to each other for 90 minutes, and it's pretty much you get a certain groove, and you maintain that groove for 85 minutes, right? And that's usually what most people do when they don't have any money. And I never was interested in that. I was always interested in the storytelling, the cool worlds, how visual and dynamic we can make it. I mean, regardless of like, I never let budget dictate the scale of the production. Or if anybody's, whether I succeed or not, they're certainly ambitious visually, um, and you know, I like kinetic things. I like motion. I love to see how it flows. I love the way different light works, different colors, different contrasts. I mean, it's just an audio. And my silly phrase is, the greatest sin a low budget film can be is boring. And so visually, dialogue, pacing, set design, visual effects, I mean, I'm always trying to keep you engaged, but always in service of the story and the character, and just keep it moving and keep it fun and entertaining. I mean, these aren't deep intellectual exercises; they're just kind of fun. Hey, come with the journey. I'm going to tell you a tall tale, and it's going to be fun. And you're going to have to suspend some disbelief here. It's like when you go to the theater and they pull up the great flats, and like, okay, yeah, I'm at the gates. The French are defending themselves in Les Miserables or whatever, and you suspend disbelief. And so when you watch Despiser, and when we made that film, we actually shot that in 1998. I don't think anybody knew what to make of it. It's like, because this is before Sin City, this is before the 300, this is before any. I think this was even before Sky Captain, and so it's a very stylized looking movie. It's like either you're on board or you're not. And if you're on board, it's a fun ride. If you're going to look at it and go, this all looks fake, man, I lost you, right? You weren't my audience in the first place. But if you're on board, you're going to go for a ride, and you just kind of hang on and have this crazy fantasy time. And you know it goes back to this other thing. Oh, it doesn't look real, or it doesn't look realistic. It's like, I don't even know what that means. Like, it's a movie, right? This isn't reality. It's like, no, I'm telling you a story. Of course, it's not real. These are actors in a space or a set, or on a spaceship, or in hell, or purgatory. And of course, it's not real, and it all happens in 90 minutes. So, like, just get into the kabuki of the vibe, and have fun with it. That's anyway. So I guess, to answer a convoluted way of answering your question about style, just trying to make it fun and visual and interesting and keep you engaged, and by whatever means necessary.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely felt completely engaged throughout uh both Despiser and Ghost Planet. I watched Despiser on my own, and then I have a weekly movie night with a few friends where we watch something. And I was like, okay, Despiser, absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. I'm going to nominate another film by the same guy, Ghost Planet. That looks like a good time. So we watched that. And at the very beginning, my friends were like, I don't know if I'm going to be into this. But then, like 20 minutes in, we're like hooked, edge of our seats,
Yeah, yeah,
all the way through.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've heard that about the intro. People they got to survive the first. Really, it's only 2 minutes. I mean, the movie is quick, but you got to survive the first 2 minutes. And in retrospect, I would have made some changes about those first 2 minutes with some of the dialogue and various things. And you know, when you set out to make a movie, you have the script is the ideal. This is the thing you're trying to achieve. And then shot by shot, scene by scene, you destroy that vision with the reality of production. And you end up, hopefully, at the end of that, something that is transformed and still works. But yeah, Ghost Planet, if you can get through the first 2 minutes, as soon as, and the thing about that, like again, if you get through the first 2 minutes, and then you're kind of hooked, like, okay, well, we're not going to be in this box for 90 minutes, right? Because we immediately get out of that cockpit, and all of a sudden we're on a space station. And then all of a sudden you're in the story, and then the title comes on, and the title doesn't come on until like 15 minutes into the movie. It's like, holy moly, that's a lot of setup to get us, you know, now you're in, man. Now you're hooked. What the fuck is with the Ghost Planet? Gotta find out what this Ghost Planet, what's that bubblegum thing? And like, really? Go ahead. Wow me.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ghost Planet is one of your most recent films, and I think your most recent like completed film, not currently in production. Is that right?
That is correct. We just finished it last June.
Nice. Yeah, and Despiser is not your earliest, but one of your earlier films.
Yeah, I took a break for like 10 years after Invader. Had kids, life, reality, and then got crazy again and wanted to waste money.
Okay, so I haven't watched any of them, but any of these three, but there's a Malice trilogy.
Yeah.
That tell me a bit about like how you decided to make like a trilogy rather than Despiser, Ghost Planet, Invader, Outer World. Those are all one-off films, except now you're making a sequel to Despiser.
Yeah, so Malice actually didn't start out as a movie. So this is when YouTube finally kind of caught on. Once Google bought YouTube, YouTube all of a sudden didn't become just dog cat videos. It became a viable platform. And I noticed that, Ben, this is 2011. I noticed like, well, there's no narrative content on YouTube. Man, I gotta tell you, if you could create compelling 3-minute stories, like real hooks, right? And at the end of it, you got to click the next one. That's how it was actually conceived. So the very first Malice movie was comprised of 12 5 or 6 minute episodes, and they're still out there on YouTube. You watch them; they really work, and they were meant to like be hooks. You got to click the next one about this young girl fighting monsters, or family members start disappearing, and all this kind of thing. And we were getting some traction, but we never broke out. I could never crack the YouTube thing. And then I thought, let's compile it into a movie. So I kind of, and it wasn't really structured to be a movie. So the timing of it is a little off, but I cut out all the little segues and joined it and created the first Malice movie, and then submitted it to Hulu, and Hulu took it and they ran with it. And all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, something, man! And we were actually making money on the Hulu in the beginning, until Hulu created The Handmaid's Tale. Then all of a sudden we're Hulu, and we only do original content, and we only want blockbusters, and all of a sudden all their indie content was basically tossed off. But anyway, so Malice started out as a web series, and then it evolved into movies, and so we were successful on Hulu, so I've already committed to like the second one and the third one, and so now they're exclusively movies, and you can see them, but their narrative, it follows this young girl. She starts out, she's like 15 or 16, and then takes her up. She's constantly haunted by this thing in the earth, and it won't leave her alone. As soon as she resolves one of the conflicts and thinks, oh, I can have a normal life again, it remanifests itself in some other weird way. And so it follows her through up until her getting ready to go to college, and has this life-changing event. So anyway, so that's kind of the evolution of Malice. So, but now they're movies, and if anybody wants to watch them as web series, they are out there on my YouTube channel, Malice Down Under, on YouTube. Malice Down Under, one word. So that's that weird evolution. But I had not made any content since Despiser. So we shot Despiser in '98. And I didn't start on Malice since 2011. So that was like a 13-year, break from media, and that's when I finally bought my first camera, because finally video cameras could shoot 24 frames per second. Despiser was shot on standard Betacam at 29.97 frames, right? And so that's why it kind of has this video vibe. And back in the 90s, video was not an accepted medium, because there was cinema and then there was video. It was like there's soap opera, and then there's network television, and everybody kind of knew one felt cheap and one felt like film, and I knew the reasons why, but nobody really knew the reasons why. It really was frame rate. That was the most defining thing. And now people aren't so fixed on frame rate, because they're watching video games at 60 frames per second. They're watching some films at 12 frames per second. They're watching film at 24 frames per second. And all of, that's sort of the visual education of culture, that they don't realize that they're adapting to things, and it becomes sort of a style and an acceptance of various frame rates in certain kinds of media. It is acceptable. And yet, when Peter Jackson went and made The Hobbit at 48 frames per second, everybody hated it, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm in cinema, and it feels like video, and it feels like a video game, and somehow that feels cheap, and it doesn't feel like the original Fellowship of the Ring, and I hate the 48 frames per second. So it's the wrong frame rate for the media. I don't know. I went off on a tangent there again. And the thing about motion pictures is it's an art form that has always been driven by constant technological change from the day of inception, since Thomas Edison and the motion picture camera, and putting in a quarter and watching a hand cranked film in a video store, and then you went to a theater and people were freaking out. It's like, oh my God, look, that train's coming right at us. Like, this was all new. King Kong was amazing, right? This little jerky stop motion puppet who was sending people running for the aisles, because it's like this was a new thing. And there was audio, and then there's color, and then TV comes, and then the Hollywood realizes, well, I got to compete with TV, so we're going to do spectacle. We're going to do 3x4, Cinerama and Cinescope, and they came up with all these wide things to keep people. And then they realized after a while, hey, you know what? Movies can coexist with television. We're not going to freak out. And then you could record them, and everybody freaked out about that with VHS and Betacam and what a Betamax. And in the end, it did not destroy the industry. We adapted to it. Of course, now nobody even knows what a VHS tape is now, or DVD, and are going to a video store. We're gonna rent a movie, or I'm gonna own a movie. Can you imagine? You're gonna own a movie and play it whenever you want to. Now nobody even wants to own a movie, right? They just want to stream it. And then after a while, they lose the rights to it, even though they paid for it. But Amazon lost track of your account. Now you got to buy all your stuff all over again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. As much as I do like physical media, I have to admit, I watch the vast majority of movies that I watch by streaming, just
sure.
because, like, if I was paying, $20 or $30 a movie to get a DVD, I would not be able to afford to watch nearly as many movies.
Yeah. Well, and here's the resistance too, particularly for indies. Nobody really wants to pay for anything anymore, right? I want to see it for free. Well, technically for free, right? I want to stream it on Netflix. Well, you're never going to get your indie film on Netflix. It's like impossible.
Yeah.
You're never going to get it on Hulu. It's impossible. Getting it on Amazon is becoming much more difficult now. Even Tubi TV, which was bought by Fox, is becoming difficult. But people don't want to pay. They feel that, I might pay for the latest Transformer movie or Marvel movie, but I'm not going to pay for your movie because it's probably going to suck. And I don't want to spend $4. And I'm just being facetious about that. And you just don't. It's hard. It's hard to, now I'm going to whine from an indie standpoint. VHS was a great day for indie film, because when Blockbuster or Errol's or any of these companies that you remember from your childhood when they bought a VHS tape, they spent $70. A video store spent $70 to have a VHS tape in their shelf, on their shelf that they could rent. And that's a great price point since you're not selling theater tickets, you're selling VHS. And 50,000 VHS tapes sold in 50,000 video stores was a marketplace. And then DVD came along and it wasn't as lucrative. And then DVD and VHS and they all went away. And now we're stuck with streaming, and streaming does not pay. Amazon, right now, if you get a film on Amazon, it pays a penny an hour viewed. A
That's
penny
yeah.
an hour viewed. That's 1.5 cents per play.
Yep.
That's what you're going to make. And unless they make it now, they will make bigger. Now, if you're a film that's going to get millions of views, the pay rate goes up. I think if you're Jack Reacher, Amazon's latest Jack Reacher, which of course they do as a loss leader. Like they're Amazon movie studio, I'm certain they lose their butt on every film that they ever produce because they spend so much money. But for them, it's loss leader because it's all about Amazon, the commerce.
Yeah, yeah. I actually I was talking with someone a while ago who was saying that like, yeah, the reason that Amazon Studios funds all of these loss leader films is not necessarily, so Amazon doesn't even make a much of their profit off of the things that they sell on Amazon.com. They make their real money off of Amazon Web Services, which hosts websites.
Right.
But they said that all these movies and TV shows that Amazon makes are so that Jeff Bezos has something to talk about and impress people with at cocktail parties. And that the way they put it is Amazon Studios is a loss leader for Jeff Bezos's sex life.
You know what? Somehow that makes total sense. I mean, he's an odd dude, right? He's all buff now, and his wife, she looks like God, I shouldn't say this, but I mean, she looks like she stepped off of a porn set. And he's got his $500 million yacht that they constructed in some Eastern European country, and they had to remove bridges to get it down the river. So,
yeah,
God King.
yeah,
It's insane. So, indie films.
indie films
It's
is
interesting. Never has it been more possible to do amazing things with the available technology, right? I mean, they're miracle tools, and I'm sure you played with like, I can do all this stuff. The problem is, so is everybody else. So there's a huge glut in independent films, and most of them are probably unwatchable. And so you really do appreciate when somebody goes, and there's never a point. This is my other pet peeve. It's like, don't ever make an indie film that is something somebody's already seen, like, because it's already been done better, and all you got to do is do it not as well, and there's nothing new. So go crazy, be experimental, do something different, break the mold, break the rules, because that's your only chance of standing out. I mean, it took 30 years for Despiser to finally find its audience. It was a slow burn. And when I say an audience, it's a niche, it's an eclectic audience. But there are people, and I'm always suspicious, and they tell me how much they like the movie, and I'm going like, really? What's wrong with you? Really? And it's like, but then I stopped and like, well, I mean, I loved it. I put a lot of heart and soul in it, and I guess over the years you kind of just get beat up by criticism or oh, it's not like a real movie or what have you. So you just sort of like, okay, I don't care. All right, so it's a self-indulgent exercise. Maybe that's all it is. And then to find that people actually like it, it's like, oh, I found my people, yay! That's nice.
Yeah. I mean, for me, there are two main factors that I think attract me to low and micro budget films like these, which are that one, I just like seeing the creativity that people can exhibit with they have a grand vision and very limited resources. How can they still try to implement that? I think that's really exciting and intriguing and just fun to watch. And the other is that I think that for me, with film and with art in general, the thing I like the most is when it really looks like somebody is, you know, tearing their chest open and showing you their heart, and like exposing all of their passion and themselves in this project. And Despiser felt a lot more like a sincere commentary on the nature of loss, and on you know possible thoughts about the afterlife and things like that, than like, I don't know, man, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania or whatever, despite having probably a thousandth of the budget.
Oh God, I think Despiser is worth one frame of that movie. One frame. There are 24 frames in a second. That's the
Yeah.
budget difference. Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I'll be quite honest, and I think that's exactly right. And it's, here's the thing: anybody who's ever made anything knows how hard it is. Particularly anybody who's made a film, even a bad movie. It's like, dude, first of all, you finish. You know how hard that is, right? You survived it, you finished it. Right there, you're in a club on your own. Because I would say making a film is probably the hardest art form there is. In terms of everything that has to be wrangled, because it encompasses so many disciplines, and such a commitment. And I mean, painting is a painting, and music is music. But you got painting and music in a movie. Writing is all of it, right? And trying to keep a cast and a crew together, and over the course of time, and over and sometimes it takes years to finish these things, and your guy or your lead actress doesn't want to participate. The whole thing lives and hangs by a thread. It's a really difficult medium, and when people pull it off, particularly in India, you look at it, it's like, wow, they pulled that off, and they did that for $10,000. This is why I'm interested in this Good Boy, because every so often I see a horror film. It's like, damn, I didn't think of that. That's amazing. That. I'm excited, right? Because it's hard to find a good horror movie.
Yeah.
One that's like, man,
Well,
I had no idea where this is going. That just unsettled me, and it just challenged me, and I always get excited by that. Which is why I don't think mainstream media can make a horror movie, because they're so worried about, well, it's got to have 10% of this and 20% of that. We got to get this audience in, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's where I do love. And it's hard to find a really good indie, but when I do, I'm a big champion. It's like, man, kudos, guys. I love your actress. I love that weird little vibe with the story, that strange little twist or whatever it is that you guys did. Made it special. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I find low budget horror films that I like all the time, as anybody who listens to this interview show no doubt can guess.
Well, cool.
um, but yeah, I agree that like finding one that really speaks to you, or is clearly the author making some sort of heartfelt commentary, is always a big treat. Um, so I imagine that a lot of people found out about your movies, and particularly Despiser, from the episode of
This
VFX
looks like
artist.
so bad, you might just fall in love with it.
Yeah, from Corridor Crew on YouTube.
Yeah.
And whenever I see, I watch that YouTube channel, and whenever they're, talking about some micro budget film, I always wonder, like, is the creator of this going to see this, and what are they going to think about it? And it looks like you're, certainly taking it in stride, since you linked to it from the Kickstarter page for Echoes of Dread.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, how did you find out about them
Well,
finding out about your movie? What was your reaction?
well, it's funny. Those guys, I've been aware of those guys since they started that channel when they were teenagers. Because I was trying to do a channel back in 2011, and I remember coming across these two young men from Wisconsin, I think. And so I've been a fan of their channel for years and years and years. And then you check in, you check out, and then they finally hit on this whatever, critiquing, because they're making content too, and they were killing themselves making this content. And I think finally they settled on something they could produce and manage on a weekly basis without hemorrhaging everything, because they were making some really involved stuff going back, and they still do. But at least now they got this critique show. They can just sit on a couch and reminisce and explore things. I had heard about it because all of a sudden I was getting comments on my YouTube channel was like, oh, I forget what they were. It was like, hey man, I'm first. Despiser, Corridor sent me here, and I thought, oh my god, they just did Despiser. I thought, holy shit. And I was kind of like, oh well, let's see how it went. And I think they were fairly sympathetic. I mean, not that they're blind to all the what was it, janky stuff, but I think they can appreciate it because I was doing this when these guys were like in junior high, and here's this dude, basically younger than they are now, doing this shit, 35, 40 years ago. Uh, I think that kind of resonates with them, and since their audience tends to be sort of a DIY audience anyway, that's why you go to Corridor because you're probably interested in making movies, and they used to give you all kinds of little tips and how to, and After Effects hacks and various different things, and so I think a good deal of their audience is kind of sympathetic. It's like, hey man, look, we all know how hard this is. We all know we don't have hundreds of millions of dollars, and yeah, they had fun making fun of parts of it, but at the same time, I think they kind of appreciate it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's like, hey, Anyway, I felt it was actually a fairly positive thing overall. Um, so anyway, yeah, I guess did I answer your question about that?
Yeah, I think so. Uh, yeah, so as you mentioned, you've been making these movies for a long time. Like you started back when it was literal film that
Yeah,
was, required and moved on into the digital age. So I'm curious if you could like travel back in time and give your younger self some advice with what you know now, what would you have done differently?
that's a good question. You know, in many ways, I don't regret this, but I realized style was important because the first film I did, Outer World, I was the original version of, because that film's been visited twice. There was the original version we did back in '85, and then I revisited it back in 2000 when we were going to get a DVD deal because I thought, no young kid is going to survive this movie in 1985 style. So I sort of did a George Lucas digital upgrade of the movie and cut like 30 minutes out of it and revisited a lot of things, which and I get George, and I know he got a lot of criticism for what he did with Star Wars, but it's his fucking movie, man. Right? And my view is you don't bury the original. Like for those people who want it, great. And so we put both versions of my film on this DVD release, which was through Image Entertainment. And it's like, hey man, go watch the original, knock yourself out. And then you want to see the other one, you woohoo. So advice. So when I did the second one, Invader, I realized, I'm not trying to make an important science fiction Kubrick thing. I'm just, it's funny because we had met Sam Raimi early on, and Sam Raimi gave us advice, and the distributor who distributed Evil Dead ended up distributing my very first film, and it was because of Sam Raimi's recommendation. And talking with him, I realized, he's onto something. He's all about pleasing the audience and giving them a good time. And we did a short with him. We did visual effects for a little short he did. He'd come to Washington to shoot this thing, and we did the visual effects for a little short called The Losers. And he directed it. We spent some time talking with him. I realized, oh, you know what? He's onto something. Like, just make something fun for the audience, because in the end, you're never going to compete on budget and production value. So just compete on just sheer joy and fun without being cheesy. Like I hate films that go like nudge nudge, wink wink. Yeah, I know I'm wearing a bathrobe and I'm pretending I'm Superman, and like that's an excuse. No, 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 no. I hate it bad. Where it's like, no, I'm seriously trying to tell you a story, and if things aren't as sophisticated as it can be, it's not from lack of trying.
Yeah.
I never did that sort of on your nose. Yeah, we're all wearing buckets in our head and pretending this is something. Whatever, people can criticize how successful we were at these things, but I think if anybody, this is a sincere effort to take you on a journey and tell you a story. So again, going back to advice I give, I was going to go to LA. I was going to direct a film after Invader we had shot this film Invader. We'd shot half of it. We couldn't raise any more money from private investors. So I took the film to the American film market, which is a great big market that is in Santa Monica, California, where vendors would come from all over the world. This is back in '89, I think. And I took the film there, the VHS of the first 50 minutes, and I'd walk around to all these distributors and try to get an audience with them to see if I could get finishing money. And everybody told me, kid, you're never going to get the money to finish this film. Everybody loves to tell you you're never going to finish that. And I eventually, at the last day of the market, the last closing hours, I ended up at Menachem Golan's suite. Now, Menachem Golan was Canon Films. He was Chuck Norris, Missing in Action. He was Death Wish.
Oh yeah,
this is Israeli filmmaker.
I know who Golan and Globus are. Yeah.
So I wandered into his suite. And I said, "Hey, I want to show you a half hour of my film." He says, "Well, he can't. He's not here right now. Leave it and come back later." I'm thinking, right? Of course, you only have one. You only have one VHS. Like, I'm going to leave it. I will never see it ever again. But I left it. What the hell, right? And I come back an hour later, and he's watching it. He's watching. He comes in, and if anybody knows Menachem Golan, he literally is Jabba the Hutt incarnate. Come here, little boy. Seriously, if you ever see an interview with him, he is a human incarnation of Jabba the Hutt. And he goes, "I like this picture. How much do you need?" And my buddies and I knew we thought we only needed $50,000. And the first words that blurted out of my mouth was $175,000. Really? That's all? Okay. Like that. That doesn't happen. But it did happen. You'll have a contract by the end of the week. And I walked out and it's like, what the hell just happened? Like, and I called up my partner, says, Menachem Golan's going to produce and give us the finishing money for this movie. And he did. And he was a great guy to me. I understand, a lot of people had problems with him business-wise and what have you, but he was always straight with me. He always delivered what he did. And he got that film on Showtime and Cinemax and HBO and was shown all over the world. It still is playing in foreign languages I didn't even know that it had been dubbed in. So anyway, as a result of that, he was so impressed with Invader because he produced the original Captain America. He had the rights to all the Marvel movies. So when his company went bankrupt and MGM sued him, they wanted the rights to Marvel. And my film Invader was in the same contract, which meant I couldn't get access to my movie for 5 years because he was going to make Spider-Man. Jim Cameron was going to direct. Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be the Octopus Man. And my film was in the contract with that. Now, nobody gave a shit about my movie, right? Like, well, who cares about? But it's in the contract, which means until this litigation is settled, my film is dead in the water. And eventually, I got the rights back. And got it out on Blu-ray and DVD and blah, 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 blah. The long and the short is I was going to direct a film for Menachem starring Michael Paré. And I wrote this film about Navy SEALs. God, it's so weird now because this is all happening. Going to Iraq to blow up a nuclear power plant because Iraq was building a nuclear weapon. So we were going to make this film in 1990. And it's so weird how history, this is all before the Persian Gulf Wars and that sort of thing. And we were going to shoot this film in Israel. And I thought, woohoo, I'm in, man. I'm in the system. We're going to start making movies. And then the company goes bankrupt. And so you go back home. And I didn't make a movie again for 11 years until I made Despiser on video. And I paid for it myself. I financed it myself. And I'm not done with this yet. And then I didn't make another movie for another 10 or 11 years. And then I did The Malice. And then now apparently it's some sort of weird creative addiction, which I think only death will solve.
Or not even there if you end up in the Despiser purgatory and find a
camera.
Exactly.
Fighting for the souls of the trapped.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. Everybody that I have interviewed who has worked with like traditional distributors has some sort of horror story about that. Yeah. It's really Amazing. And like I've read a lot of filmmakers' autobiographies, same thing. There's always some sort of terrible horror story, usually a lot worse than what you just said about like your rights being tied up. Usually there's something like I was owed $600,000 and they never
Oh,
paid me.
quite frankly, I am the luckiest guy in the world. I've never lost money on my movies. Now, I can't say I've made much money on my movies, but I've never lost money on my movies. I've finished all my movies. And at a certain point, to keep my own sanity, I realized I had to quit thinking about it as a business, because if it were a business, I would have been the first person I would have fired from my company. And I had to think about it as a very expensive hobby that paid for itself. And ironically, it keeps my technical skills sharp. And you know, business comes through unusual ways as a result of the movies. Like all of a sudden, I'll get a job because one of the actors' mom is producing something that has nothing to do with the movie, but knows that I'm in the media, and all of a sudden I'm creating something for them. Or like the unexpected doors open when you go down unexpected paths. And that's not, you know, you didn't expect that door to open, but it just did. And it wouldn't have opened had you not been going down this path of making an independent feature. And, you know, the worst thing ever is a film that is not finished, a film that's out there. Right? And I'm sure there are many of them sitting in shoeboxes and on hard drives underneath people's beds all across America. And you know, once you start, you cannot stop, because if you stop, you know the inertia and the amount of momentum it takes to get it up to speed, and how hard that is to keep going, right? Because you got to finish, and you got to finish in a timely way, because people get old, people wander away, people die. You know, you got to get it shot, and you know, you can spend the rest of your life in post, but you got to get it shot. God,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about poor Terry Gilliam and Don Quixote. I mean, talk about it.
Oh.
And that, quite frankly, my stories are not unique. I mean, even Steven Spielberg had a hard time getting Lincoln financed, right? It's like nobody wanted to do it. You know, he's going to try to do his an HBO film. So it's Steven Spielberg, for God's sakes. It just goes to show you this is a really hard business. I mean, it's tough, even for the gods of the industry. So anyway, the advice, man. I don't know that I have any advice. You know, I go into LA. For all I know, I would have just self-destructed there, right? And you know, staying back here, I'm making films that interest me. There's nobody telling me what to do. They are getting distributed. They are finding little niche audiences. You know, they find haters and whatever. But you know, those people were never going to come on board anyway. And it's been a really satisfying, fun adventure in that regard. You know, and I raised my kids, and they went to college, and you know, I can still afford my mortgage. So, go me. I don't have any advice. You dumbass. Get a job.
Yeah, I think that is some advice that I have given to like particularly naive sounding young aspiring filmmakers, is that like you do not need to make a career out of this. You can make films as, you know, an art form that you're passionate about without tying that to your livelihood.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that, especially nowadays in the modern era of it's incredibly cheap and easy to make a film compared to what it used to be, but
Yeah.
it's very difficult to make money off of that film. I
Very
think
well.
there's I think there should be more people making films just because they want to, rather than because they think they'll make, you know, a bunch of money off of it, or even
Well,
much
and
money
they're
at
not
all.
going to make
Right.
a bunch of money. Let's just be very blunt about it. You're not going to make money on your movie, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you might make a few $1,000s, but you'll probably never recover what you put into it. But you know, at the very least, you can always self-publish on YouTube, and it will find it. Hey, if it finds an audience of 15 people in the world, and they contact you, dude, I watched the movie. You know, that was kind of cool. Hey, at the very least, you could do that. That was like completely impossible up until what, even 15 years ago, right? So,
Yeah.
so I think that is the sane way to look at it. Um, you know, a distribution friend of mine, a very smart guy, Eric Lundmark of Leo Mark Entertainment, said, Phil, look, I'll be quite honest with you, because I don't, you know, blow smoke up anybody. Um, you know, you're going to make some money on this movie, but you're never going to get the amount of money that you think you're going to get on this picture, because the market is simply not there. And the only way you can look at it as a younger person, I'm way too old for this because nobody wants to invest in me, is look at it as a stepping stone to networking and getting, building relationships and eventually get a Netflix deal, where Netflix owns the IP and you're work for hire. Or the same thing with Hulu, the same thing with Amazon, that kind of path. But I got to tell you, man, that path, you will spend years and a lot of money trying to put a deal together, and it only takes one no or one little twizzle stick for the entire thing to, because it's all about time and money and I've got this guy, and as long as I got this guy, I can get this guy, but I only have this guy for a couple of months, and if I can't deliver a deal in a couple of months, and I lose this guy, and if I lose this guy, I lose that guy, which means I lose the financing, and you're in it for years trying to build a deal, and then it just all collapses because you have no control over it. And I got tired of that. And now I self-finance. We do a little Kickstarter fundraising to try to fill some of the gaps. And hopefully, this campaign will succeed. I don't know that it's going to succeed. I got to re-energize it in some way. And we only need $800.
You're like $800 away from the goal, which is like you're like 1/5 of the way away, and you still have 13 days to go. I'm very confident you'll succeed.
Well, I hope so. And this is the thing also, some people who are pursuing that, Hulu deal thing need a credit. This is an easy way to get a frickin' IMDb credit on a movie that's going to get finished, man. And it's going to get distributed. And I got to tell you, friends of mine or friends of actors of mine who are in the industry, and he tells me, hey, I just finished another movie. They go like, what? And they go and they see the trailers, like, how did you do this? Like how did you, even though they can see it's not like a mainstream thing, they're still in awe because you can't do this in LA, right? Like they know you need a 10-man crew, you need permits. Like you can't even make a student short in LA without spending 20 grand of your own money. Right? But they look at it, they're just completely baffled by what's going on because they're so industry minded. So anyway, if somebody's out there listening needs an associate producer's credit, go look at the pictures on IMDb and tell me whether or not you want your name involved in this film, because this film's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, you've run a number of Kickstarter campaigns already, and all of them, it looks like all of them have succeeded.
They've all succeeded. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the trick there is, gosh, I would love to ask for more money, but I'm not George Lucas. I always get annoyed when celebrity people jump on the Kickstarter bandwagon and TV. Everybody just hurls money at them. Ooh. It's like, really? But I don't have that. I'm just some dude making a movie in his garage.
Yeah. Which, speaking of dudes making movies in their garage, I'm really curious if you've watched anything by Jason Trost.
Oh, no? Should
okay. So I interviewed him a little while ago. Most recently, he did Waves of Madness, and he has a very similar sort of high concept science fiction, fantasy, horror things filmed with a whole bunch of green screen and him doing all of the visual effects and everything himself. And I think you would probably really like his stuff. It's another guy doing a really similar set of things.
As far as green screen is concerned, by the way, people think, oh man, that's easy. I wouldn't wish a green screen movie on anybody. They to do it well, it's hard. I mean, it is really hard. I mean, people think you can press a button and magically make stuff appear behind people. I mean, to do it well, where you're not getting all kinds of fringing and noise on the edges and all this sort of thing. And it's like, man, if you can build a set, I highly recommend that.
Yeah, I know. With Jason, a lot of the motivation for doing things on the green screen is, save money and also save space, that he could just dedicate, one small section of his apartment to this and leave that set up and change out, like put props in the foreground, that kind of thing. And then film an entire movie that way, instead of having to, have studio space, build a set, find locations, that kind of thing.
Is this movie finished? Waves of Madness?
It's definitely finished. I don't know if it's publicly available. I got sent a
Have you
screener
seen it?
for it.
Did you see it?
Yeah, yeah, I saw a screener of it.
Oh, cool.
I usually see screeners of the movies. I never interview people about a movie that I haven't seen, which is why I asked you about like Ghost Planet and Despiser, and not as much about like Malice because I haven't seen those ones.
Malice is fun. Malice has a brisk pace. Got a great lead actress. Um, it's kind of a Buffy vibe, Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibe. I mean, she's not supernatural or anything, just a kid who's in way over her head.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. So Waves of Madness is available right now. It's on Amazon. You can
oh,
rent
cool.
it for a dollar or two.
Yeah, I'll go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I really like, I've noticed that you've been, taking notes when I mentioned
Oh
another
yeah,
movie that you haven't seen yet. I think that's great.
yeah. Well, it's exciting, and it takes a village, and it's and on this, like going back to film festivals and things. Back in the day, you would go to film festivals because you wanted to win and get laurels and put them on your DVD box or your Blu-ray box or whatever. Well, I mean, there is no physical media anymore, right? So if your film is on Amazon, there are no laurels on your thumbnail on Amazon, right? There are no, nobody knows that you won the Pualam Film Festival on Tubi TV. So intrinsically, I don't really see the value in it. And you can spend a lot of money submitting and going and attending. But I will say, I've been like Malice, because it was a web series back in 2011. Web series were a thing. Everybody thought this was the new media. And so there were all these award things came up, and we went to LA Web Fest. We went to the Rain Dance Film Festival in London. We went to the Vermont Film Festival because we thought, hey man, we're onto something. Web series of the future, narrative web series, man, it's going to be great. It turned out to be nothing. The things that succeeded on YouTube were blogs, how-tos, right? But they weren't narrative content. Narrative content is just too difficult to make for YouTube to satisfy that weekly audience. Having said that, though, we were winning a lot of awards because our web series was pretty freaking amazing. It looked like a movie, right? It had high production value, it had good writing, good actors. But I met so many cool people, and in Britain, and we're still friends, right? We support each other's little crowdfunding campaigns, what have you. And that's the cool. This is why I'm making notes, because I love it when you come across an independent filmmaker who's working with stone knives and bearskins, but they're making cool content. And because I also review through a distribution company a lot of other filmmakers' films, and most of them are just torture to get through. I mean, they're just glacial in pace, and it's two people in the same space. It's the same vibe for 85 minutes, but I'm doing it because they're going to write a review on my movie, and I'm going to write a review on their movie, and all that sort of thing. But then when I find one that I really like, and then they really like, damn, all right, that's cool, man. You guys, that's awesome. I'm excited for you. The other ones are like, well, you're struggling to say something positive. I mean, you always say something positive. You're struggling. It's like, man, that was watching paint dry.
Oh,
Right. I mean, and it's always a difficult situation to be in. But when I see one that's great, I just gush. Like, dude, I love it. I thought your photography was amazing. Your lead actress was awesome. You broke the paradigm. You're doing different things, and that's why I'm making notes. So there you go.
yeah. So I'm curious. You keep mentioning putting movies on YouTube, and like, yeah, there definitely are people doing that, but almost everyone that I talk to is much more enthusiastic about getting their movie on like Tubi or Amazon or things like
Cool.
that.
All right. So right now in the indie circuit, there are really only three viable platforms. Amazon isn't what it used to be. Amazon used to be a really viable platform, but they're a penny and a half an hour. That's a lot of pennies. Now,
Well,
if you only leave your film up for transaction,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
The
you
penny
can
and a half an hour is the AVOD, the advertising supported video
correct.
on demand. Is that right?
That's correct. Right. There's AVOD and TVOD. TVOD is transactional video on demand, and there's
Yeah.
AVOD, advertising video on demand. Now, up until about 2 years ago, you could actually have made a pretty reasonable amount of money, but like all aggregators, like in the stock photography business was a perfect example with iStock Photo and Pond5 or whatever. And in their initial model, they go, hey, photographers and stock footage people, I've got a thing for you. It's an 80-20 split. We take 20%, you keep 80. And then once they get enough content, this is the same thing they all do, and there's a name for this in the industry. Once they get enough content and enough critical mass, they become Pond5, right? They've cornered the industry. They go, I'll tell you what, we've changed our terms of service and we've inverted the model. We get 80% and you get 20%. And if you don't like it, you can leave. And where are you going to go? There is no place to go. You could always set up your own website. Good luck with that. Anybody's got a website, because they're the 100-pound gorilla. They've owned the business. Amazon isn't what it used to be. You can put it on transactional, but now you got to like have people actually pry open their purse and be willing to spend $1.99 on this risky little indie vibe. And and if you can, hit the circuit with people like you and other nerdiverse people who are like into this groove, and they all kind of know each other. And Corridor Digital's another branch of that, or whatever. I mean, a larger scale, a little more mainstream than some others, and maybe you can make some money. But anyway, so there's Amazon, there's Tubi, and Tubi is a great platform. I think it's going to get harder to get on there, certainly in terms of production value, what they accept, and ad revenue now. So Tubi had a great market when they were the only AVOD channel going, but now Netflix is an AVOD, Hulu's an AVOD, and Amazon's an AVOD, and there's only so much of an advertising pot. So when Tubi would maybe get 50% of the ad revenue for their streaming on AVOD, well now they get like 20% because Netflix is getting it, Hulu's getting it. So the price point, I forget what they call it, CPM, cost per million impressions or something. It's lower.
CPM is actually cost per thousand. M stands for meal, but yeah, it's money per watch time.
Per watch time, that's correct. Is now smaller than it used to be because there are more people in that space. So anyway, Amazon, Tubi, and YouTube. So I have a film called Pungo: A Witch's Tale, which was shot in 2010. A story about a real true life story about a witch that was persecuted in Virginia, and then we do this whole weird Wizard of Oz fantasy thing. It's gotten over 1 million views on Movie Central, which is a YouTube channel. And Movie Central is a big one, and we've made quite a bit of money on Movie Central because they have like, I don't know, 1 million subscribers. I don't know. They got a lot of subscribers. And so if you've got a good, and they have a bunch of, they have Sci-Fi Central, Movie Central, and I think it's Horror Movies. Anyway, it's a conglomerate YouTube channel that has, little niche things. And they have, mainstream horror and little niche horror. But if your film gets views, you can actually make a pretty reasonable amount of money on one of those kinds of channels. Now, it's a 50-50 split, which means Amazon gets 50% of the revenue, Movie Central gets 50% of the revenue, and then usually a distributor who's made a deal with Movie Central gets 50% of their 50%. So now you're only getting 25%. Well, your distributor is getting 25% of the original dollar, and they're usually taking 5%. So you're only getting 20% of the original dollar by the time it comes to you through your distribution company, if you get accepted. So I guess my point is there is money on YouTube. If your film gets a lot of views, if it gets good word of mouth. Ghost Planet is doing really well on YouTube. When I say well, it's relative, right? I mean,
yeah,
you're talking, I don't know, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 maybe, if you're lucky, a quarter. And then that's a hit. That's a hit, by the way.
Yeah.
Most of them don't get anywhere near that. And that usually is only good for, like any movie in distribution, it's your first quarter is everything. All right. You're gonna make probably 60% of your revenue in the first quarter, and then it diminishes by half, and then half again, and then you end up with this sort of trickle from there on out, because it's all about the new, fresh loaf of bread on the shelf. And quite frankly, these titles are considered just a loaf of bread on the shelf. There's no marketing that goes into them. And so, it's a fresh title, and sometimes they catch on, and usually they don't. I sound bitter, but I'm actually not. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, yeah. I think really the only thing that's like noticeably different about what you're saying than about most of the people that I've talked to is that most of the people I've talked to have been telling me they've been getting better returns off of Tubi than off of YouTube. Um, and one thing that I think just sort of like a little matter of pride for some people is that uh if you put your movie on Tubi, nobody can tell how many times anybody has watched it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if you put it on YouTube,
yeah.
there's a little counter displaying exactly how many times people have watched it, and I think some people feel chagrined by seeing a relatively small number there, and I think
Yes.
some people in the audience will see a small number and go, "Oh, barely anybody's watched this. It can't be good," and skip it.
Well, more importantly than the watches, because clicking on it is not a completing a movie, right? That means they
Yes.
touched it and they were out in the first 3 minutes, and that's a view, but that's not necessarily revenue. Um,
Right.
but you can, if somebody watches, I'm trying to think of what it is. I think if somebody watches the whole movie on YouTube, I mean, you can make like 60 cents maybe per view if they actually make it all the way through. I mean, they bombard the crap out of you with ads, by the way, so you got to constantly click next or what have you. But I think the real indicator is likes and
Hmm.
reviews, likes and reviews, because you know now you're not going to see the dislikes because they took that button off. You have the dislike button, but I think that's what, and reviews, because if people are actually taking the time to write the review, that means at least even a shitty review is engagement. I have to say. I mean, that's the algorithm, right? I mean, I pissed people off enough that they had to actually take time out of their life to pick on like the most innocuous thing in the movie. And it's like, really, dude? You watched the whole thing, by the way. You admit you watched the whole thing, and that's what you had to write about it? You actually put that in public? You actually wrote that in public? Like, aren't you kind of embarrassed? Even like that's not even a sentence. Kind of funny. But yeah, no, I think Tubi is probably the biggest market, no question about it. Tubi's the top. Amazon is not bad for your first quarter. It will drop, and then YouTube is not to be discounted. YouTube can be I don't know 20 to 30% maybe over time. But then over time, it's an old movie, right? And you can actually uh, make some money on Blu-ray and DVD through self-publishing, but it's got to be like an interesting, like Despiser, I think did pretty well on Blu-ray because that kind of audience is an eclectic audience, and they want all the behind the scenes and all the fun perks, all the weird little stuff, how the movie was made. Like if they're into it, they're into it. And they're willing to spend, I don't know what they spend on these things on the Blu-ray. But I would say if you make 20 grand on an indie film, and most don't, you've actually done pretty well. Most
Yeah.
probably don't. Um, so that's the reality of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a solid, reasonable thing for people to have in mind as like something to strive for is and if I make 20 grand on the Philip experiment, I will be very happy and very surprised. Uh
Have you figured out who you're going to take it to, distribution wise?
so my plan has been to try to get it on like Film Hub um and self-distribute that way.
Yeah.
So I know longtime listeners will have heard the spiel about Film Hub a bunch of times because we talk about it in a bunch of interviews.
What's
Um,
the spiel that they kind of had a crash and burn at some point, or
no.
uh,
Are you familiar with Film Hub or?
I think Film Hub you upload, right? You subscribe to it, they get 20%, but you pretty much have to do everything, right? You got to upload it, it's got to pass QC, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, so they're sort of a distributor. Distributors, traditional distributors will do quality control both in terms of like just, you know, is your film available in the correct format and everything? And also, like, is this movie good enough that they want to try to pitch it to buyers? Film Hub does not do that. They only do the, like, did you upload this in the correct aspect ratio and everything.
Right.
Um, and they do very little marketing of the film, but they do pitch your film to buyers, to streamers and things. Um, and the big thing that they do that makes it a lot more convenient for the filmmaker rather than trying to do all those pitches yourself is that they have contacts with not just with, like, Tubi and Amazon's AVOD and things like that, but also with all of these tiny streamers that you've never heard of all over the world. And so you can get, you know, uh, I interviewed somebody who, their film ended up on some tiny streamer in Malaysia being shown with, automatically generated Malaysian, subtitles and things. And they made, $2,000 off of that,
Sweet.
which is, $2,000 that they would not have made on their own because they don't have any contacts in Malaysia.
For
And
Malice, we got a deal with a dentist.
oh, great.
It was like $2,000. This dentist, he's paying $2,000 so we can run it. And this thing's like, really? Hey, man.
Wait, so two grand for
To,
someone
I
who has
guess
the rights to it,
it's
or
weird. I never understood the deal. It was real money. And my distributor said, hey, I got this guy. I think he's a dentist and he's got this thing. And it's like, okay, hey,
yeah,
woo.
it's amazing to me how consistently dentists keep coming up in this. Because,
Huh.
like, I read, like, I'm sure Lloyd Kaufman from
Oh,
Troma.
yeah,
uh,
I know Lloyd. Lloyd's a great guy.
yeah, I interviewed him a few years ago. It was great. um and I read his book, Everything I Need to Know About Filmmaking I Learned from the Toxic Avenger. And in it, he says, like, go try to find funding. Go talk to the dentists in your town because dentists have a lot of extra money and want to do interesting things with it. And I thought, like, really? Wow, that sounds like he's just generalizing from one experience. Uh, but then I kept talking with more people and they kept being like, yeah, man, dentists, go talk to dentists. And so
You know what I think maybe in that, and if you notice, most dentists are really kind of eccentric people too. Kind of odd. Um, and I think as a self-proprieting business, it's a very successful business, right? I mean, unlike a restaurant where you're probably going to lose your ass,
yeah.
yes, there's money in mouths, and I don't. I have to admit, like when we did. Now I haven't done this in decades. Private investment dentists were that was a thing. Again, that was a while ago. There were tax incentives. I mean, I wouldn't go through that again. Just contractually alone, the contracts are just killer for private.
Yeah.
It's just a lot.
Yeah. That's
For
one of the
something.
reasons why I like Kickstarter so much is because you get those private dollars, but they don't expect to make a profit off of it. They just want the thing to exist, get their IMDb credit, get their DVD,
Yeah,
and they're happy with that.
yeah. I'm hoping to find somebody who wants to come on board with our show for that. The thing is, and it's fun because I have people who, I guess our first Kickstarter campaign was like 2012. I guess like 12, 13 years ago. And they're, well, first they know I always finish, right? I always deliver. And I always tell them, look, if I forgot something, let me know. Like, because for me, the greatest fear, if people ask, what are your greatest fears? The fear of failing, not delivering, not following through on what you said you can do.
Yeah.
And that's essential because, a lot of these, I know some things, these projects, some never get finished or they take like 5 or 6 years. It's like, really, dude? But usually by the time I come to Kickstarter, my film is pretty much almost done. I'm just trying to wrap it up and get a little help to cross the line. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've run a bunch of Kickstarters, but before the Philip experiment, they were all for, like, tabletop games, so, like, board games, card games, role-playing games. And the Philip experiment is the first one where I'm going to be late delivering some of the rewards. Like, I
Oh,
made the movie and I delivered it digitally, but I haven't made the DVDs yet and mailed those out. So
So you made these games? You actually have them printed and produced and all?
yeah, yeah.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That's a lot. That's a lot of work.
Yes. So I started with board games, and a number of years ago, I switched to just doing role playing games because the physical product that you need to manufacture for a role playing game is a book, and a book is a lot easier to make, a lot cheaper to both to make and to then distribute than a board game is. Board games require specialized factories that we don't have in America,
Yeah.
and you don't get any sort of discount on shipping the way you do with media mail for books.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so
Were these ventures profitable for you?
yeah.
Oh, okay. So they weren't lost leaders. You ended up.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's why I made the Kickstarters all so that like if they succeed, I'm at the very least breaking even, and then I'll make more copies to sell in retail and make profit off of those. But typically the Kickstarters, yeah, I made a profit off of all of them.
Excellent.
Not like a huge profit. Like if my
Yeah.
partner wasn't working on, a different job at the same time, then I would have had trouble making rent. But
Yeah.
yeah, they make a profit.
Cool. That's exciting. Yeah. No, I think that seems to be a sweet spot for Kickstarter, where it's almost transactional. Like you give me $20, you get a game, right?
Yeah.
It's a point of sale, and they get 20%. And those seem to be movies are a little different. You're trying to engage people and have them being involved in the process, and their names in the credit, man. Right? It's like and this is the thing I was hoping Despiser Echoes of Dread, which is not exactly a sequel, but it definitely touches on a lot of the weird elements from Despiser. It's not as gonzo crazy, car chasey. Um, but it's like who wouldn't? It's like Despiser's almost like a drinking game kind of video experience. It's like, dude, that's my name, man. That's my name in the credits. And
Yeah.
Despiser.
Yeah. Man, oh, I hope it's still gonzo at least a bit. Like you mentioned Sam Raimi earlier, and yeah, like a lot of the camera work in Despiser is like it's like what if Sam Raimi could fly and walk through walls? How
Yeah,
would he move the camera around then?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Well, you never know how people react to things. I like the story. It follows up on what happens to several of the characters 25 years later. We got a number of the actors back after all these years, and repercussions of going to purgatory has a price. So takes a toll.
yeah, yeah. I think I might rearrange some episodes and publish this one a little bit early so that it can go out while the Despiser Kickstarter is still going on.
Oh,
Because
that would,
normally I put it out on the third Monday of the month,
yeah, yeah,
but that would be after the campaign ends.
yeah. That'd be cool. So I was listening to some of your other interviews, and I obviously I had not heard of you, but this is a lot of fun, and I appreciate you reaching out. That's
Yeah,
pretty
thank
cool.
you. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I really liked it whenever I watch a movie and I think, oh man, I really want to interview the person who made this movie. 9 times out of 10, I cannot find any sort of contact info for them, and I can't figure out any way to reach them and try to make that connection.
Right.
And so when I saw that you were doing this Kickstarter campaign, I was like, ooh, I know how to contact people on Kickstarter. This is an opportunity.
Cool. Well, cool. Well, hopefully, if because the Blu-ray for Despiser, I think, came out what, 6 months ago, and then we just had a screening of Despiser like last week in New York, little theater, and we had a screening in Seattle in a theater. That one, I think, filled up a theater with a couple of hundred seats, and I think it's just that kind of. It's almost like a Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
hopefully
Midnight
it's not like The
movie.
Room, because I hate being compared to The Room, because I was not a fan of The Room. It's funny. Somebody had mentioned that movie to me on a set. We were shooting Malice, and this is back when I was getting DVDs from Netflix before the streaming thing was a thing. And
Yeah.
The room comes as like, what was I drunk when I put this in my queue? And I'm watching this movie. It's like, wow, this is what the fuck. And then somebody said, no, Phil, it's like you got to see this. Tell me where. So it's like, man, I'm sorry. I'd rather. Nah, I don't want to be in that club. I'd rather be in the Ed Wood Club. At least he was sincere.
I think Tommy Wiseau is
Oh no, I think he was sincere. I totally
sincere.
think
Yeah.
he was sincere.
Yeah.
I do believe that actually. I couldn't. I struggled to get through it, to say the least.
Yeah. No, I mean, I enjoy The Room, but The Room is very much like entry level, first time watching an a bad movie independent film thing that, like, I don't know. I'm tired of things being compared to The Room just because so there's so many other things that are like more apt comparisons.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's. I agree. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I really think like the other one that I definitely think that you should check out is the one I mentioned earlier, Waves of Madness, by Jason Trost. I think that's very much in the same sort of like high concept, low budget, science fiction
I'm going to.
adventure film.
So my notes are: take her back, talk to me, good boy, the Philip experiment, but I don't think and Waves of Madness.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and but
Keep me
between
informed about your film, man, because when it comes out, I'll write you a review.
oh,
And
thank you.
and look, I gotta tell you, the review thing, the network of people to review your film, even if they don't write the greatest review, is really important in terms of
Okay.
the algorithm. So when you do come out to eventually put your film out, you want those IMDb reviews, uh, you want those Amazon reviews, because that helps keep it alive in the algorithm. At least gives you still a fighting chance. So yeah, when that comes out, and you've got your fan base. I don't know if you have Patreon or whatever to fund your thing.
Oh, no, I just run Kickstarters for each individual
Oh, okay,
project.
but you've got your own network, and so when your film comes out, post to all your campaigns. Hey, my movie's out. If you guys do me a favor, watch it. And write me something if you can. Like that's really important. To still
Yeah.
keep in touch with your people because
Yeah.
they're your tribe.
Yeah, I'm going to post a bit about it, but after spending a number of years doing the starving artist thing, I got very tired of that, and I have a day job doing computer programming. That's how I pay the bills, and I hate doing social media marketing so
Oh,
much
tell me
that
about it. I find it humiliating. Uh,
yeah.
oh look at me. Oh look at me again. Wait, I'm still here. Look at me again. I still got my thing. And I was, I was never very. I had a partner who was shameless about it. I mean, he was the classic used car salesman, and that's a whole separate vibe. But I mean, I love the idea that the media speaks for itself, which is a naive point too. So there's a happy medium there of which I have yet to discover. But
Yeah. Um, my one marketing tip that I would give you is that right now, Despiser is on Tubi, as directed by Philip Cook, and all of your other movies are on Tubi as directed by Philip J. Cook.
oh,
So if somebody clicks on your name as the director of Despiser, they won't see any of your other films because
oh,
they're listed as two different people.
interesting. That's Leo. Yeah, I'll contact Leo Mark and see if I can get that to change. That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me that. It's that kind of thing too. Because oftentimes, particularly if you go with a distributor, you never know where your movie ends up,
Yeah.
or sometimes they don't know either, or they don't know when, right? And all of a sudden they go, "Hey, this thing went up." It's like, really? That's news to me. But you got to know because it's all about those first couple of weeks. You got to know when you go on Amazon. You got to know when you go on Tubi TV, because that's when you got to like whatever shameless promotion you're going to do. That's the time to do it. And oftentimes you don't find out. Really? No, dude, it's been up for weeks. Like, really? It's news to me. So Yeah, that's
Man.
interesting. Um, yeah, I will talk to Eric about that.
Excellent.
So when the time comes, if you're interested in exploring other distributors, I can give you a couple of recommendations of people you can submit to and see what they have to say.
All right.
Um,
Yeah.
uh,
I'm gonna wait until like the spring before moving on that because that's when I'll find out about like most of the festivals that I submitted to. I'll find out in February
okay.
whether it gets accepted or anything. And I think if I can put a few laurels on there before I make any pitches, that might be helpful.
Yeah. How many festivals did you submit to?
Only like a half dozen.
Okay.
Um,
They're all like
but
sci-fi, fantasy, horror.
yeah, so friend of the show, Adrian Sofe, the director of Be My Cat, a film for Anne, which is a pretty well acclaimed found footage horror film. I interviewed him a while ago, and he recommended a few, especially like found footage focused festivals that I should submit to.
Uh-huh.
So the ones I've submitted it to so far are A Night of Horror, Midwest Weird Fest, Chattanooga Film Fest, Envouement Mockumentary Film Festival, which is a French one, Genre Blast, and Unnamed Footage Festival. And I'll find out about four of those in February. So, and then the other two are in May and June. So I'll probably start pitching things in like March.
Cool. Cool. Well, let me know. You have my email.
Yeah,
So
I do.
yeah, so when the time comes out, I will watch your film and review for you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm definitely looking forward to Echoes of Dread.
Well, thanks.
So before I let you go, the last question I like to ask people is where do you see the future of independent film going?
Ooh, well, I don't, as we discussed, I, you mean independent film that makes money or just the ability to make an independent film?
Um,
You tell me how
well,
you want to
I
see it.
meant the second one, but now I'm curious about both.
I don't know that there is a mechanism for it to make money. I suspect it will be, unless you find your people, right? And look, here I am. I made Despiser, and having said that, I'm still struggling to keep things going. So, I don't know. Maybe there are 1,000 Despiser fans across the planet. That's great that they're there, but that's not a sustainable fan base. Um, I think you will always be able to make independent film now. It's a question, I think, it's about your imagination and your original storytelling, your original take on it, which there are no restraints of what you can do now. AI is part of it, AI imaging, which I think there's going to be some backlash, and eventually it'll just be a tool that people have. Um,
That
uh,
does seem to be the trajectory that it's following. Yeah.
exactly, like everything, So here's a case in point. Like when computer imagery came out. So we started. My background was traditional visual effects, right? We did puppets, stop motion animation. That was we did videos back in the '80s for MTV. And then when Jurassic Park came out, it was an extinction event for my entire industry. It's like, holy crap, they're making dinosaurs with computers. We don't know anything about that. And so that was a really intimidating thing. And then one day I'm in a bookstore and I see this book. You too could do 3D animation on your house, on your computer. And it had two floppy disks in the back. And I was like, no way. And I went and popped those little 3.5-inch floppies in my computer, and God bless it, I'm doing computer animation. So I taught myself computer animation. And my buddies who were stop motion animators went to local universities and taught themselves some basic computer animation. They got jobs at Industrial Light and Magic. It was like an adapt or die thing. So then you get this backlash of, oh gosh, when you do spaceships, it was so much better when they put models on strings in front of virtual star fields instead of computer generated spaceships. They just look more real. It's like, more real to what? One's a model, right? One's CG. They're both fake. Do you buy it? Do you like the design? Are you in or you're out, right? I mean, it was such a silly argument. But my point was there was pushback on 3D animation. Now 3D animation is classic, and AI is the bastard child, right? Ooh, it's AI. It's like, look, in the end, motion pictures were always a cheat. Back in the day, you painted a backdrop and you pretended you were in a desert. Eventually, you did rear projection. You projected movies behind people and pretended you're in a desert. Then you had, oh, it's all blue screen. Now you put people in front of a blue screen and pretend you're in a desert. Long and short, it was always just a trick to tell a story. Because in the end, a writer just wants to get what's on the page on the screen. If he has to use a puppet, he has to use a glass painting, if he has to use a painted backdrop, a projected background, a blue screen, a 3D animated thing, or an AI, in the end, all I want to do is tell this story and get it visualized on the screen. And people lose track of that, and they lose their mind. They go, you Visigoth, you're destroying the medium, because back in our day, we did it with human beings on painted backdrops, and now you're doing it with computer-generated people or AI-generated people. So there's a lot of pitchforks and fire on this right now. I think AI imagery is going to change the entire motion picture industry forever.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if there's not 100% synthetic movie within the next 2 to 3 years. And it's getting so good.
There are already 100% AI generated movies. They're not any good yet.
Right.
But
they will be. And
yeah.
they will be indistinguishable from reality. And I have no doubt that's the future. Why would Hollywood, who's tired of paying people, period, feeding them, paying their salaries, their increased salaries, when they could replace them all with synthetic machines and render farms all over the world? If they can produce a $300 million Marvel movie for $30 million, they're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are freaking out. Actors are freaking out. Caterers are freaking out. Makeup people are freaking out. Gaffers, grips. Yeah. It's another extinction event. I actually see it just as another tool in the tool chest. No matter what I do, I'm going to get criticized for something anyway. So it's like, sue me. I'm making a movie.
Yeah.
So I guess to answer your question, the future of indie filmmaking. Man, if you want to tell a story and you can do it in a way that doesn't kill you financially, it's possible. And you can tell a really good story. You can be Stanley Kubrick. There's nothing stopping you, except originality and a great idea, and tenacity and perseverance. So,
yeah.
That's how does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel optimistic about all the different movies I'm going to get to watch.
Yeah, well, it's an exciting time, and in the end, time. Go back. Like I've recently been binging on classic Star Trek. I got it on Blu-ray, and they're beautifully restored. And they're both versions are on there. The classic version with the original visual effects, and then the upgraded visual effects, which I really enjoy actually. And Star Trek, it took probably a good 10 years for it to kind of find its audience, but now it's eternal, right? Star Trek is part of our culture.
Yeah.
And but at the time, like the network didn't quite know what to make of it. The actors loved it, but it was a gig. Hopefully they'll move on to a Western, one of a more wholesome job than that, or a lawyer show. And now it's a cultural phenomenon. And over the test of time, regardless of whether it's successful, I think a good story does get found, a film that resonates with people. And I'll say this with reasonable humility. All my films, like Invader, is such a product of the 90s. It is a 90s video store era Cold War Russian UFO movie. It is so evocative of its era. It sort of makes it timeless. You know what I mean? It's not when you look at it, I know exactly when that movie is made, but it really represents how movies were made then. And that's a thing. That's kind of a fun thing. It's like when you watch Forbidden Planet, right? It's such a product of high-end filmmaking. It was the best they could do in 1950, and it's a thing, like Robbie the Red. And you love that. You love the fact it's painted backdrops and it's artificial because it's fucking Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's a time capsule.
It's a time capsule. And I'll say that Outer World, it's the same kind of thing. Yeah, it's 80s clothes and 80s hairstyles, but you know what? It works because it was true to its era and it's watchable. They're still watchable.
Yeah.
Vader is still a watchable movie. Whereas some of these films, the ones that were really exploitive, that were made in the 80s and 90s, sci-fi ones, they're not watchable because they weren't great to begin with. Like they were just bad Terminator knockoffs with silicon breasted women in bikinis, and they weren't good to begin with, and they're still not really. I mean, some of them are so cheesy they become right a life of their own, but most of them nobody gives a shit about, and they're lost forever. But then you get the ones that are so evocative of the era of the genre, they become timeless. So I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm watching Babylon 5 right now for the first time. Really, really great show.
Yeah,
Excellent politics, wonderful characterization and plotting, and some very dated computer graphics.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like unlike Star Trek, which uses the models
Yes,
for at even through the 90s, Babylon 5 uses CGI, and it so every time that they show the ships flying around and
yeah.
everything, it
But
looks very
it gets better though because the visual effects. Because I remember when that came out, and that's what inspired me in the whole desktop 3D thing. And but they really evolve. I mean, I don't know how many seasons into it are you?
yeah. I'm early in season 4 out of a total of
You can
5
see it.
seasons. So yes,
Progress,
yeah, you're right.
progress.
I can see how it's improved since season
Yeah,
1.
it's evolving. And when I saw them too, and I remember everybody criticizing this, I'm not criticizing. Look at that cool, crazy freaking spaceship, man. Yeah. Do I believe it's a real thing? Well, I mean, it's compared to what? Like the Starship Enterprise from 1965? It's like, are you in or you're not? I just love the crazy ideas and the crazy designs. And I remember it got criticism for it. It's like, what are you guys talking about? Like, are you in the story or not? Like, I love the fact that instead of 3 cool spaceship shots in an entire Star Trek episode, I got 50 in Babylon 5. I love that shit. And they
Yeah.
blow up. I love shit that blows up. It's fun. I mean, what are we talking about? It's like, I don't know if you ever got into the old Jerry Anderson puppet shows, Captain Scarlet, Thunderbirds. You know anything about
Oh,
those?
I've watched Thunderbirds, yeah.
And for a kid, it was like toys. They'd build these cool vehicles, and they blew them up by the end of an episode. And what kid doesn't want to have a Tonka truck that looks like that and have the whole thing just get blown to smithereens by the end of the episode? And watching puppets get shot and stuff. It appealed to the toy destructive mentality of young boys. Um, I'm way off topic.
Well, no, man, I think that's great advice for any filmmakers listening to this. People love explosions.
They do. Universal truth. Things that blow up and beautiful people on screen. They don't want to look at ordinary people. They want to look at exceptionally handsome or engaging in some way. Like bland is no, nobody's interested in bland. Bland is your next door neighbor. They want something exotic, something fascinating, something different, something charismatic. Yeah, that's why you populate movies with attractive people.
Although I also am a fan of seeing, like ordinary looking people or unusual looking people in movies. I love it. I love watching a movie where I don't recognize any of the actors.
I do too, if they're good and they're solid. But like 2 cases in point. Steve Buscemi, right?
Yeah.
I love Steve Buscemi. That is not a pretty man.
No.
Or Paul Giamatti, right? Paul Giamatti looks like me, or right? But those eyes and their ability to make you feel all their anxiety or emotion. They don't have to be pretty people to completely absorb you and engage you and take you on a story. And I agree with you. Sometimes movie stars are baggage. They because they're bringing their stardom to a role, and it's really hard not to see Tom Cruise playing this guy. Whereas when you see an unknown, it's like, okay, I buy that. That works.
Yeah. So people can watch your movies on Tubi and on YouTube. You've got your own YouTube channel where you post a variety of different things. Where else would you like to direct anybody who's listening to this?
Um, well, they're all there. I mean, this is we're working on our ninth movie. They're all genre. They're all fantasy, sci-fi, quasi horror. My horror is not really terrifying horror. It's just sort of fun, spooky. Um,
Yeah.
but they're all on Amazon. They're all on Tubi. They're probably all on YouTube too. Um, obviously, from a profit standpoint, I don't know. I don't know where to go. Whatever's easiest for you, man.
I'll just include links to all of these in the
But,
description.
but I'll tell you, if you do watch them, little reviews, engagement, a thumbs up, a like, all that stuff really does help. It keeps it alive. If you want to write, whatever, just engaging in them in any way. An IMDb review is always welcome. Um, yeah, and I'll tell you the most insulting thing, which I haven't been quite getting, but occasionally get trolled, is when
Mm.
people think you're trying to steal something from them. Like, oh, I watched your movie and I really resent the fact that it exists. As if
Ugh.
you took something from them. It's like, really, dude? Like, I mean, it's okay you don't like it. That's fine. But you go out of your way to let you know how much they hate it. It's like, what's with that? Right? It's just weird. And I would love to meet one of these people sometime, like in person. Tell me how much you hated my movie. Like maybe you feel safe, because you're an anonymous, person or something. But it's like, I, I don't know. I don't get that sort of that level of negativity. Um, like I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I encounter that sort of attitude occasionally, but I've done a pretty good job of just sort of avoiding people who take that kind of attitude to movies they don't like. I've watched plenty of movies that I don't like, and my reaction is, "Oh well, I bet I'll like the next one."
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Well, good fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on and talking with me, and I'm looking forward to uh, your next one,
Well,
Echoes of Dread.
I hope it doesn't disappoint people. It's fun. I like the characters. I have a lot of empathy for these characters. And that's the thing that excites me the most. It's different. I mean, I'm hey man, I'm taking risks. We'll see what happens. Putting it out there, as you say, opening up your heart and putting it out there, and then hopefully people won't squish my heart.
Yeah, yeah, I hope not too. And I am guessing that the kind of person who's going to find the Echoes of Dread Kickstarter campaign and back it is familiar with your work and they know what they're getting into. I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we'll see. Yeah, I think so. Whatever it is, it's a sincere creative attempt to create something and take you on a journey and spin a tale and hopefully you like the people you've been on the journey with and you feel something. That's really the goal is to try to engage people's emotions and make them either happy or scared or empathetic and oh no, he's gonna die. That's terrible. I like them. He's gone.
Yeah, yeah. I love a character that I either love or hate.
Yeah, exactly. You love a great villain when they're really good at it, and a good hero is doing his best, even though he's making a mess of it, but somehow he manages to get through. Yeah. Well, fabulous.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on and talking with me.
Well, thank you. Do you edit these at all, or you just let them go?
Yeah, I'm gonna edit this mostly if there's like a long pause in the conversation, which there wasn't really in this one.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're largely unedited. But like I add a little intro and outro music that people
Cool.
are probably going to be listening to right now.
Curious. Um, what do you edit in? What do you how do you do that part of it?
So I just use DaVinci Resolve, which is a free nonlinear film editor and also color grading software.
Yes.
Um, I use it because this is recorded as a video
Okay.
file, and then I just only export the audio
Gotcha.
for these. If I was more of an audio person, I might use something like Audacity,
Mhm.
but I'm mostly a
Well,
video editing guy.
curious because I hear some of these blogs, and I think that, and I haven't researched this, but like there's I'm wondering if there's like an algorithm or a thing that literally goes in there and pulls out every pause longer than say 4 frames. Like it just goes and
Yeah,
kills them, and so it's just this aggressive auditory experience, right? Because every is there is like, are you aware of those kinds of things?
I am, and because I have the paid full version of DaVinci Resolve, it does have that feature. I tried it once and I didn't like the result, and so I just don't do
What's it
it.
called? What do you call that? What do you call that pause?
Oh, I'm not sure, but I bet I can look it up.
Because I imagine I have the Adobe Premiere Suite, which I just spent another $500 on for the year. Um, and I imagine they have it too, and I haven't researched it, but and I imagine you can like set it for like anything over 10 frames, pull it out, or right, like give it a level of attack.
I'm not sure. It's a brand new feature. It only came out like a few months ago, so
Oh,
it hasn't been as uh, you know, made as complex as I'm sure it will eventually.
oh, interesting. Okay. How much is DaVinci Resolve, the Pro version?
The pro version is $300. It's a one-time purchase. It's not a subscription or anything like that. Um, the free version is free and has almost all of the features of the pro version. The feature that I really wanted that the pro version has that like made me decide to buy it is the automated subtitle generation,
Oh,
which is pretty good but not perfect. I had to go through and change things, and especially like there's a scene like for the opening credits in the Philip experiment. There's a song playing during that, and it got the lyrics of the song almost completely wrong. But
it's
for
because
all
of
of
that music. The
yeah,
music, that's what threw it.
yeah, but for all of the actual like dialogue and everything, it does a really good job. I had to change a few things like the spelling of a character's name and stuff
Right,
like
right.
that.
It's not going to know that. I'll tell you, when you get around to delivering your film and you need to make the SRT file, you know what that is? That's the screen subtitle. It's an invisible file that goes out with your film. You can export a version of your movie, and I usually export a version with just the dialogue, upload it to YouTube, have YouTube then do automatic captioning. And it does, if it's just dialogue, it like nails it pretty well.
All right.
And then you can export an SRT file from YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I already did export the SRT file
Oh,
from DaVinci.
oh, there you go. Never mind. You've already
So
got this. So
yeah.
that's cool. And did you need the pro version to export the SRT file? Or?
Yes, it will not generate the closed captioning for you on the free version. That's a
I
paid
got
feature. So that's why I paid for it because I looked into like how much would it like because I was not willing to take all the time to do that by hand. I was like,
yeah.
how much would it cost to pay someone to do this? And the answer is more than it costs for the paid version of DaVinci Resolve. So
And specifically for the SRT, I think there's a company called Rev. Is it Rev? I forget what they. Yeah, it's probably $100 to $200 to do the for the closed caption. They probably task people in Mumbai to do it or wherever.
yeah. Okay. That's yeah, I was finding in the like $300 to $500 range. But
Try rev.com. See,
yeah.
that's I think that's their name. Um, and
Well,
depending on your distributor, sometimes your distributor will give you like a discount code. Right? They're trying to help their starving poor filmmakers. And that's the other thing when it comes time. Well, if you go with Film Hub, that's not an issue. But some of these companies, want you to have errors and emissions insurance. It's like, are you kidding me? That policy is like $10,000. That's more than the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's
No.
crazy. So,
Um,
well,
but yeah, a number of different options for anyone listening to this to make the subtitles for their film.
so your movie's done.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. How long is
Yeah.
it?
It is 63 minutes.
63 minutes. Cool.
Yeah, it was 67 originally, but I showed it to Adrian, and he was like, these two bits are too long. You should cut down those scenes. And like at least one of those was the scene where I was like, is this scene too long? Should I cut this down? I'm not sure. So I cut it down a little bit.
Now I'm going to IMDb. Is it? It's on there.
It is.
Oh, cool. I will look. I will explore now. Thomas.
Yeah.
Look at that. All right. Look at no pictures. Put some pictures up. Do you have any pictures in the still frames?
Oh yeah, I should do that.
Yeah, you should definitely do that. Go find some fun screen grabs, and then put like a little bug, a Philip experiment, your logo in the little right hand corner, like a little branding thing.
Oh man. Yeah, right now the only picture that's up is the poster, which I really like that poster. I was very happy with that.
That's cool. Oh, I'll explore this.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. All
Yeah, I
right.
hired somebody who's good at that sort of visual design to make the poster for me.
Yeah,
And
it's got that sort of 60s illustration style vibe.
yeah, and I like how it uses that sort of teal color because like there's a very important scene near the end of the movie where the characters are watching a VHS that they found, and like it cuts between showing what they're watching and showing them, and whenever we see them they're bathed in the blue light from the television.
That's
So
fun.
yeah.
That's cool, man. Congratulations, by the way. How long did it
Thank
take
you.
to make that picture?
So primary shooting was 3 days over Labor Day weekend last year.
Wow.
And then I did a few days of pickup shots, and I spent about a year editing it off and on. Most of that I took a 2 week or I took a week off from my day job, and spent that whole week editing it. Was it 1 or 2 weeks? I don't even remember. Um, and so yeah, it took about a year from when production started to when I was
I should
finished
do
with
an
the edit.
episode for you where I interview you about your movie. We'll switch the roles. And you can make an episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna record director's commentary for the DVD, and I'm probably going to release the director's commentary as just like an episode of this as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool.
Thank you.
Well, I wish you luck with that, man.
Yeah, I'm
Are you
excited. I've
happy with
already
it? Are you happy with the picture?
yeah,
It's
I
a good
enjoyed it.
question to ask anybody. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah, I think it turned out pretty fun. There's um 3 scenes in it where I'm really proud of the timing of the edit. Because that's the thing. I'm like, out of all of these things, all of the many different skill sets that are required to make a movie, the one that I think of myself as the best at and enjoy the most is editing.
I love the
And
edit. Yeah.
yeah, and so I really like how I timed a bunch of clips in the opening credits, and there's a scene where uh, I'm interviewing just a whole bunch of different people at a bar about like, what do you think is going to happen when we carry out this experiment? I'm really happy with how I managed to make the edit there be pretty funny without like changing or scripting any of things, because like I said, this movie's unscripted. And so
Well,
I'm happy.
you had an outline, right? You knew where it was going.
Yeah, we had the premise, and like we sat down and we created the characters with the actors. Um and we knew that we wanted it to build to, a big crazy conclusion, but we weren't sure what exactly that would consist of, and we really weren't sure how we would get, from A to B. Um but then yeah, so we shot a bunch on that weekend, and then I assembled it in the edit, did some pickup shoot shots to create scenes to sort of tie it together. And the first like 15-20 minutes of it is an actual like legitimate documentary about the thing that inspired the movie, which was a experiment carried out in 1972 by the Toronto Society for Psychical Research, which I read the book that they wrote about it. I was like, this is amazing. This would make a great horror movie. And so the premise of the movie is a paranormal researcher gets some people together and recreates that experiment. And so the opening is a documentary about the original experiment, and then the rest of it is recreating the experiment.
Cool. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I certainly had a good time.
So 1972, you had to go period.
Well, that's when the original experiment
the
was
original
in.
experiment.
And then the modern day recreating the experiment was set in the present 2024 when we shot it.
So when you made the documentary on the beginning, you had to have that 1972 style documentary. Did you go down that file?
No, I did speak with deliberate intonation and stuff like that, but I wasn't trying to make that seem like a period piece. I was trying to make that seem like this is a modern documentary about something that happened in the 70s.
Are you familiar with the documentary filmmaker Fred Weissman? Were you into documentaries at all?
I watch a moderate amount of documentaries, but not like a whole lot.
Well, did you go to film school at all?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. So this is a guy who was making documentary films going back in the 60s, black and white. And he made one called like High School. He made one called Petticoat Follies.
Yeah. Okay.
Called DMV. And he basically takes his cameras in 16 millimeter black and white and goes and he just lets them roll on the most seemingly banal things and the weirdest stuff. And he's one of these documentary filmmakers. He tries to not to manipulate the material as much as humanly possible. I mean, just by the very nature of having a camera has a subjective view. This is why it's always taught in film class, because it's like, to what degree is the documentary filmmaker skew, the content to a particular thing. But he did one called Petticoat Follies, which was set in a prison mental institute. And I think you can stream these on Amazon. And they're really quite disturbing. And they're kind of sad, right? I mean, you're talking about people who obviously have mental problems, and like they won't eat. You have to force, like one of them was force feeding this gentleman, a tube down his stomach to get him to eat, to keep calories in him, because he's basically melting away. And just his whole thing is all about institutions, documenting institutions, not necessarily critically. That's kind of left to you because there's no narration. There are no subtitles. He just lets it play these scenes, and I don't know why. I guess you're talking about this 1972 experiment made me think of that. Anyway, you might find it curious.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I've heard of Petticoat Follies before, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that was probably in the 60s. He did one called High School, which was great. It was about, it was like a 1968 high school. And they're all authentic kids just doing shit that teenagers do, and anyway, they're fascinating. It's like being a fly on the wall in a world that doesn't exist anymore. I find it kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah, cool. Well, excellent. Well, good fun.
All right. Well, I'll see you. I'll talk to you again probably once Echoes of Dread comes out, and I'll definitely watch it and let you know when my movie comes out.
Well, excellent. Absolutely. Let's do it. And hey, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you were local, we'd go grab a beer.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
All right, man. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice meeting you too.
Okay. Well, I'll let you carry on with your Sunday.